let's see.
Who's excited for video games, everybody?
Dude, freaking this show so far is just a bummer left and right. Holy shit.
And we actually seem to be going over time.
Yeah. Let's see.
Please, no more depressing shit.
We can skip over some of the news for now. There is one more I specifically want to do, and then we can just jump into games. Is everyone cool with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one that I do want to get into is Able Gamer COO Steven Spahn recently took Behold Studios, the developer behind the title, out of space to task for the language used in the game's accessibility mode. When toggling the accessibility mode option on, the players are greeted with accessibility mode decreases the difficulty significantly. This option will block some achievements and may take away much of the thrill of the game. It is only recommended to those alienated by how hard the game currently is. Turn it on anyway. So Spawn criticized the developer for the wording of it, stating that the game admonishes the player for the needed accessibility. So I guess before I open the floor, I'll just go ahead and give my 2 cents, and that I think it's fair to criticize poorly worded I guess subtext of putting on accessibility modes or easier difficulties. I know we've been on the record multiple times for talking about Wolfenstein 2 specifically, for when you put it on easy mode, it's not text, but it shows you like wearing a fucking baby bib. Like it's fucking making fun of you for doing it, even though that game's difficulty is fucking broken so bad, where that's the only real optimal way to play it.
Can I peek in really fast? I think we should at least bring up that the developers did respond to him, and
yes,
were incredibly open to criticism. And this obviously isn't an excuse, but they did bring up that English wasn't their first language, and that could have been a reason why it came off as it was. Obviously, I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but that's what they brought up. But they did say that they were actively working on changing it, and that it would be available in the next patch.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of just more want to use this as a launching pad for the general discussion.
I just wanted to point out that this is a good story. Developers actually came out and were like, okay, we will fix this. But just wanted to.
I will say, and this might be potentially, I don't want to say controversial, but I'm open to having my mind changed on it. I personally don't think the statement was worded that horribly, and that. So I will always advocate for difficulty options and accessibility modes. You should never, as Steven Spahn puts it, admonish players for doing that. Let them have their own prerogatives on how they want to play. But on the same token, I don't think, and I think you'd agree on this point, Sarah. It's not necessarily wrong for a developer to say we would like we have like an intended design in mind, and some of that comes from the challenge. So at least in my mind, and I think I've illustrated an example of it before, of like, let's take Demon Souls. Like, let's say that's like a level 10 difficulty game. If you're level 7 skilled player, that's only like if you do the math, that's like a level 3 difficulty. If you're a level 1 skilled player playing the same game, that is a significantly harder experience than what the other person's having. So putting difficulty modes and accessibility options will bridge that gap so that intended game design is more in line with it. So if you look at a game like Jedi Fallen Order, I would say that game is fundamentally not that good if you purposefully put it at a lower difficulty. Like, it's very geared towards an intended level of difficulty for players. But the same side, as I opened with, that is completely someone's prerogative. But I would say that there's nothing necessarily wrong with a very, very soft nudge telling players, we recommend playing it this way.
Yes, but I will also speak up, because I consider myself a disabled gamer, and I do use accessibility options when I do play things, because they do help me enjoy games to the ability that I can. And I think it's okay for developers to say that they intended their game to be played a specific reason, but it shouldn't be on the accessibility feature menu. It shouldn't. 100%. And I did a blog post on this, was just prepping my own stuff again, because Control did this when Remedy put assist/accessibility features into Control with the last DLC, and they said, and I quote, Control was designed to be both challenging and rewarding, and we encourage you to first try playing it with the assist mode disabled. Assist mode was their accessibility feature. So they were flat out telling people who need accessibility features to play games, do not play it with this because this isn't how we intended for it. No, you don't do that. No matter if it's an assist mode or if it's an accessibility mode. If you want to have your game played a specific way, or you think your game should be played a specific way, that's fine. Say that in like interviews. Say that in like when you boot the game up. Don't say it in an accessibility feature, because that's just telling people like me, who more often than not need those accessibility features, that how we are going to play the game because we wish to enjoy the game is so how the developers didn't want it to be, that it's not fair to them that we're using these modes because they claim that we're not going to enjoy it, or that's not the direct way that it was meant for them to be played, or meant for the game to be played, that we just shouldn't do it. Like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. And the fact that developers are still doing that, even if it's maybe, God forbid, it was because that they didn't have native English speaking staff, and maybe they worded it wrong. We don't know. But the fact that it was even still put in the accessibility option menu is not okay. And I think if developers continue to do that, then it's going to set a precedence for accessibility features and the way that developers handle them going forward. Like with all the shit that we talk about, Naughty Dog, which is 100% totally valid, their accessibility modes and how it was handled is the best that gaming has ever done it. And I honestly don't think that any games are going to get that close unless something comes out in the next year that absolutely blows it away, which I highly don't think that's going to happen. Circling back, I don't think it's okay to say something like, this is not how we intended for you to play the game in the accessibility features. It's not, because those are there to allow everybody to enjoy your game, which is what gaming is. You want everybody, no matter whether you're a disabled gamer or not, to enjoy playing games. And if they keep wording it like that in that feature menu, that's not going to happen. Okay, I'm done.
Blaine, I know you're a very avid Dark Souls or just Souls player in general. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I don't know if I call myself a very, very avid player, but apparently
good enough to platinum Dark Souls 2 at least.
And Bloodborne, but that's besides the point. I mean, my whole opinion on this entire subject kind of just comes back down to, if your game's not enjoyable to everyone, that's a flaw. Not if your game is not as enjoyable as possible to like people with certain disabilities, that's not something you should be proud of. Accessibility is something we just need to keep pushing forward, and people should have options available to them without patronizing bullshit. That's my extent of my feelings.
I guess to maybe isolate it a bit, and feel free to jump in here, Mesa, is the key issue with this, because I think we all basically agree that difficulty options should exist, accessibility options should exist by default, but just to isolate it, this comes down to the wording of these said modes would be the issue. Can we agree on that?
Oh yeah.
Most parts.
Wording was terrible.
What would be the ideal wording for each people here, if you want to give it like maybe a sentence? I guess, Mesa, if you want to go first.
It would be on the difficulty stage. On normal, it says the way we intended this game to be played. There. When selecting difficulty, on normal, and I feel honestly, for me personally, I feel like if you're going to the accessibilities option, not you're kind of going into the acceptability. No one designs. How do I say this right?
I think semantics might be the word. Semantics might be the wrong word, but I think you're talking about like where things belong in menus, right?
Yeah, the intention of that accessibility menu is to change the game so that you can play it and enjoy it, right? And I feel like, you know, you don't need to tell the player that they're changing the game by going into the accessibility mode. Most players already know that. They don't need to be, you know, scolded about how they're playing the game wrong by entering here.
Or if they're made to feel bad for like turning them off.
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, just saying, hey, as a developer, like when you start the game, just with everything on normal, with everything defaulted, and it's just normal difficulty, this is how we intended this game to be played. I personally feel like that's all that needs to be said. And if you need to go into the options, you can. If you need to do anything, I don't need lip from the developer telling me that I'm playing their game wrong.
No,
just tell me how you want to be played, and then I'm good.
I would honestly go even a step further and maybe say, just I don't really give a shit what difficulty you intended the game to be played on.
Well, no, because some difficult. Okay, sorry.
Well, yeah, some difficulty can be what they tuned for most of the audience or what have you, or like why Dark Souls doesn't quote unquote have a difficulty thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, if your game has difficulty selection and you say, well, this is the intended difficulty, and while I don't know, it just feels like an arbitrary thing of like, I guess we'll start here when most of the people are going to assume when you start on normal or whatever the selector starts on, that's most likely the default option. It just feels like it almost feels like it's too much thought being placed on how can we change these words when do we even need the word at all? Can we just be like, this is the default, and then put accessibility options?
I think to build off of Mesa's, I think it would be somewhat similar in that I don't think it's necessarily wrong to say like, here is a default setting. This is what we recommend for most players, and then you can have a little subtext saying, we recommend playing this game at a level that gives you a certain amount of challenge. So if that certain amount of challenge that you're still comfortable with is on easy, or I don't care if there's fucking 20 different selections for difficulty modes. I don't care. Whatever's comfortable for you, feel free to play, but we do recommend giving yourself just enough room for a challenge. That's how we feel like our game is best experienced.
I don't even think it needs wording to begin with. Just don't put wording in there. And again, I hate to bring it up, but the way that The Last of Us 2 handled it, towards even when you first boot up the game, the accessibility options come up first. And then when you hit circle to like go past them, a little screen comes up that says you can change these at any time during the game just by hitting start. Like I don't even think it needs words other than that. Other than it going, hey, you can change these at like any time. Like, even hitting start, not just in the, like, start menu of the game, but by hitting start to, like, pause it. Like, I just don't think accessibility options need words to begin with, because every time I boot up a game, I look for the accessibility options first. Like, I will look for them because those are what I use to help me enjoy games. Like, not all games, but, like, a good selection, that's how it helps me enjoy them. And a lot of people are like me. They'll instantly go and look for the accessibility features first. And I think putting them front and center to us and then being like, hey, you don't have to mess with them now, but you can mess with them later. Just hit start and go to settings. Like, I think that's so important. I don't even think you need to have words to it.
That's fair.
Don't put words to your like difficulty. Don't put words to your accessibility. I don't need to be... excuse me. I don't need to be scolded looking at you, Remedy, and I say this with all the love and compassion in my goddamn heart. You don't need to be scolded for turning on accessibility features. Never. And the fact that games are still doing this makes me just want to throw my crabs. Makes me just want to throw it. It makes me angry. I'm done, I promise.
I guess for me personally, I do think that there is a space as like a creator in a medium to say like, hey, this is how I intended this to be experienced. However, you can change it in any way you want to. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, I think we all kind of have different outputs, but I think it all kind of comes down to the same thing where we do want difficulty options. We do want accessibility things. And I think we can all even probably universally agree with something that Sarah brought up with The Last of Us 2, where it just put those options front and forward. You can engage with them if you choose to.
Just do the dumb shit of saying like, oh, you suck or something. Like, just let me play the fucking game, please.
Yeah.
If I want to turn immortality on when I play Control, your game's fucking hard, I will turn immortality on when I play Control. I already beat your game without it on to begin with.